My name is Eliana Plier. I am 21 years old, and I'm going to be talking about my adoption from Russia and my sex trafficking case. I was born into a family in Myashtchelabinsk, Russia on August 16th, 2002, which was my biological family. They did not have the correct finances to take the proper care and steps to keeping me, so they thought that it was the best decision to give me a new and better life with another family. And I was kept at the hospital for about 3 days until I got transported from the hospital over to the orphanage that I was gonna call home for however long I knew. When I was in the orphanage, we did not have our separate rooms, we did not have our separate beds. The one specific thing I remember is feeding time. When feeding time came around, it was very brutal. Some of the kids actually never got fed on a daily basis because they didn't take one child out to go feed at a time because there were so many children. And so they kind of walked up to the gate and kind of handed out food as it was. And the kids who were in the back who had like disabilities had a little bit harder of a time getting food. I mean, one of the things that I used to do in the orphanage, and I get this told by my parents all the time, is I used to take my food that I got because I was healthy, grab my food, and I would give it out to all the kids in the back. I was always the caretaker. The conditions in the orphanage were not ideal. My parents found me through an adoption organization because they were not able to conceive a child, so they decided to adopt. My orphanage that I was in was all-female orphanage, so I was never introduced to men. I didn't know what a man was. When my mom and dad came and sat down to play with me, I remember my mom just doing this and just being speechless, just looking at me. And I remember that when I looked at my dad, I was like, whoa, what is that? They played with me for a long time. These were the first ever people I've ever seen other than the caregivers and the other kids in the orphanage that I was living with. I mean, I was still a baby, so I didn't really think too much of it. I just cared about playing and the toys and the attention I was getting, because that was the most attention I've gotten. I came over from Russia on February 10th of 2003. When I got to the airport, it was all so different. When I walked off that plane, my entire family was standing right there. Like, there was like a huge crowd of people with signs saying, "Welcome home, Eliana." I just remember just getting engulfed in people, just like getting passed around to everyone. Even though I was only 18 months, something in my brain knew that this was gonna be the start to my new life. When I was 16 years old, I was taking a walk at night in my hometown. So it was around, I want to say like 9:30 at night, and I got into an argument with my parents, and so I just decided to take my earbuds and my phone and go on a night walk. I stopped at the park just to swing on the swing a little bit. I get back onto the sidewalk after swinging for a little bit, and obviously I had my earbuds in, music was blasting, I wasn't really paying attention. Next thing you know, I feel two arms on my shoulders, and I get pulled back, and everything happened so fast. I remember they picked me up and they threw me in the back of, I think it was like an SUV Tahoe or something. When they did grab me, they put a blindfold on me. It was duct tape. And so I obviously couldn't see any of the people, any of the vehicles. I didn't know if there was one person. I don't know if there was two people. When I was in the back, I tried remembering every turn we took, how far we were driving. I tried listening for voices, for different surroundings. So I did have my phone, but I didn't know if the people in the front could see me or not, if they were kept checking back at me, so I didn't want to grab my phone out. I remember being very verbal because they only duct taped my eyes, and I was screaming, I was crying, I just remember saying, "Please let me go, like, what did I do? Like, who are you guys? where are you taking me? Like, what's happening? Like, why are you doing this to me? I was screaming so much and talking so much that we must have pulled over. I heard them get out of the car. I found this opportunity with getting my phone. And the duct tape over my eyes covered my view of looking forward, but not down. So if I looked down, I could see my clothes. I could see the bottom of the car I was held in. And everyone's like, why didn't they take your phone away when they grabbed you? Well, they didn't realize I had my phone on me. They didn't see my earbuds. They didn't see my phone. When I grabbed my phone, I tried texting my friend because my parents were asleep. And so I tried texting my friend, and it said that my phone had no service. All of a sudden I hear, like, it's like dead silent, and I hear footsteps coming up to the back of the vehicle. And so I know that I had to hide my phone super quickly. And so I had boots on. So I shoved my phone all the way on the sole of my foot. I just remember profusely shaking, just like anxiety, panic, just overrode me. And all of a sudden they opened the back doors of the vehicle, and one of them hops in the back with me. So there were two people. One of them hops in the back with me and puts a gag in my mouth so I'm not able to scream or talk or yell anymore. One of the people stayed in the back with me, and I could hear them talking, and they were both male voices. Next thing I know, they stop the vehicle, and the one person who was driving gets out. They open up the back, and first thing they do is they keep the blindfold on me, they keep the gag in my mouth, but they put shackles on my wrists and my ankles. And they ended up pulling me out of the back of the car, and they were guiding me. And I remember slowly walking up these steps, and it was almost like we were walking into a house of some sort. As soon as we got inside, they took the blindfold off, but they left the gag in my mouth, and they left the shackles on my wrists and my ankles. They took the blindfold off of me, and that's when I saw everything. And I just remember looking around very, very cautiously, like trying to make it not seem like I'm like looking around, but I was scanning the room and the area I was in, just trying to look for ways to find help. And then I saw 4 guys. I saw the 2 guys that were in the car with me. They were very, very scruffy guys, missing teeth, smelled awful. They walked me into the living room, and that's when I saw 4 other girls shackled in a row. They add me to the row of girls, and I remember that we're all standing in front of this one couch with the guys on it, all shackled together, and they actually combined all of our shackles together just in case one of us tried running off. All of us would have to go with, and so it would be a harder escape for all of us. The first thing they did was they drugged me. They took my arm and they injected some clear substance that was in a syringe. And at this point, I was like, I have to think fast, because whatever they just put into me, it's gonna start hitting me in at least 10 minutes, as far as I know, because I don't know what they put in me. So I was like, I have like 10 minutes or less to figure out what I'm gonna do in order to keep myself alive in this kind of a situation. My body just went extremely cold. I felt like I was about to start going in and out of consciousness. I felt dizzy. I felt like I was about to fall over. One of the girls actually collapsed on the floor about 10-ish minutes after I got there, and they actually unhooked her from all the other girls and took her to the back room, and I don't know what they did with her in there. I took advantage and asked if I could go to the bathroom. And they let me go to the bathroom, but one of the guys walked me to the bathroom. I remember them unchaining me from the other 3 girls. They did let me go into the bathroom by myself, but all of the windows were boarded up with bars in front of the wood, so it was literally impossible to escape. I grabbed my phone out of my boot as soon as I locked that door to go to the bathroom. The one guy who walked me to the bathroom said that I have 5 minutes to do whatever I had to do, or he would come in and rape me. So I grabbed my phone, I went on my phone, I tried sending that one text that I tried sending my friend, because I had it already typed up and everything, and I tried sending it, and at this moment, I felt a huge sigh of relief because I saw the delivered word underneath my text message to my friend. So I just calmed myself down and I texted my friend, sent her my location. Thank God she responded right away, and she was like, okay, I'm calling the police. Just do what you have to do to survive. About 10-15 minutes pass. I get out of the bathroom, get shackled back up with the other 3 girls in front of the couch. My neck was stiff just standing there because of the anxiety that I had. And so I remember lifting my head up like this and looking underneath my blindfold and seeing a window that was not boarded. About 10-15 minutes more pass, and it's the same in there. The guys are talking, and turns out they were talking about what each of us girls were worth. They were going to send us away and sell us into sex trafficking. And when they got to me, they said that they would put 10 grand on me and send me to Mexico. I just remember like getting very, very uneasy and unsteady on my feet, more than I was before. They ended up putting another dose of whatever was in the syringe in me again, and this time it made me go unconscious. All I remember before I went unconscious was it took about a good 15-ish minutes, 15-20 minutes until I did pass out. At least it felt like it. It was very quick. But right before I blacked out, I heard a window break. And next thing you know, I hear dogs barking. That has to be the canine unit. That has to be the canine unit. And that's the last I remember of that whole inside of the house thing. I woke up in the back of a squad car, sitting on the other side of the road from the house because they were rescuing all the girls and stuff. I don't think I was fully unconscious. Like, I was closing my eyes because I couldn't keep my eyes open with how heavily drugged I was, but I could hear still, like, very faint, like, it almost sounded like echoes. And, like, I just remember feeling someone scoop me up and run me out of the house. And it turns out an officer scooped me up from the floor that I collapsed on, and he ran me out to the ambulance. They got me back up and conscious. I was surrounded by like 5-6 different officers trying to ask me questions while I was under the influence. So I do remember that I was not able to keep my story straight. So the officers had a hard time trying to put together what actually happened. I remember I was crying. I was so worked up that I couldn't keep my story straight, and I was scared that the officers didn't believe me. They were able to put together the story with the little details I was telling them, and they finally called my parents. They got a hold of my parents, and at this point, I was like, I'm in so much trouble with my parents because I have a history of meeting up with my friends from online and going on drives and stuff. And so when they got a phone call from the police, they didn't believe the police. And so after we finished up at the location I was held at, they took me to the Appleton police station just to hold me there until my dad was able to come up and come get me and bring me back home. I had my physical exam all done in the back of the ambulance. The officers decided that it wasn't necessary to transport me to the hospital because I said that I didn't get raped. I remember when we got to the police station, I was put into an interrogation room. And I remember the female officer that was on scene walked into the interrogation room where I was sleeping. Actually, at the time, I was sitting in the chair, sleeping on the table because I was so drained and exhausted. I remember the female officer woke me up and tried questioning me again and talking to me. And I don't know what my parents said over the phone to the officers. All I know is that my parents did not believe the officers or me that any of this happened. And my parents, I don't know what my parents told the officers, but the female officer came into the interrogation room and was like interrogating me. It almost felt like I was the suspect in this entire thing. And I just feel like I wasn't being treated like a kidnapping victim. It almost felt like they were seeming like this was my fault that this happened to me. And that's when I started thinking, like, what on earth did my parents tell the officers on the phone? Like, why are the officers coming at me for what just happened to me? I don't exactly remember what the female officer all exactly said to me, because I was so tired. I kept falling asleep when she was talking to me. So I just remember falling back asleep and getting woken up by another officer shortly after. And when I woke up, I looked to my right and I see my dad standing in the doorway of the interrogation room. I started crying so hard when I saw him standing there, because so many emotions went through my head. I was like, oh my gosh, he's probably so mad at me. He doesn't know the story. He doesn't believe me. He thinks I'm making all of this up. He thinks I ran away with a guy. And so my dad, I just remember he was very quiet. Mind you, it was like 1 a.m. in the morning and he had work that morning. But he had to drive up to Appleton to come get me. And I just remember walking out of the police station with him. As soon as we got into his car, I knew that I was in trouble because I knew he didn't believe me. And as soon as we get in the car, he yells at me and tells me to give him my phone, because apparently that's the reason why I ended up in Appleton, which is not the case. And I just remember being silent the entire way home. I just let him get his anger out, let him yell at me, because I understood, because I know that the reason why he yelled at me was because he cares about me and he loves me. And obviously, for any parent with a child that actually goes through something this traumatic, it's almost impossible to believe that it actually happened, and you're in a state of denial that it happened. And I think I think my mom and dad were both in the denial state of, they just couldn't actually believe that this happened to me, so they didn't want to believe it. So they took away my phone for an entire year. And as soon as I got back to my parents' house in my dad's car, I went inside, and obviously everyone was sleeping still because it was still super early in the morning. It was like 3 a.m. And so I just remember going to my bedroom and just passing out and waking up the next morning. And obviously, my parents were mad at me, and we talked it over the next day after my parents got home from work. I did not go to school that day because it was just, I had no energy in me to go to school, and everything got resolved. I was able to finally explain later that week what actually happened to me, and like every single detail, I went through every single possible detail with them, trying to get them to believe me. Parts of the story to this day, they still don't believe me because they're in that denial. If it wasn't for my friend, I probably would be dead right now. The guys who were in the house and the guys who took me, they did get charged. I do not exactly remember what charges they all got because there were so many charges, but all of the guys did get charged. But I know that one of the guys actually is walking around as a free man right now. He deserves to rot in jail. I'm obviously not going to disclose names, but it just makes me, there's just anger that builds up in me whenever I think about him walking around as a free man after all of the hurt and trauma he put me and the 4 rest of the girls in. The lesson I learned or got out of this experience that I was in is that never walk alone at night, and never walk at night anywhere with earbuds in, because when you are walking at night, anything can happen. Even if you don't think it will happen, it could. There's always a possibility of anything happening at any point in time in your life. Even if you feel like you're in the safest city, safest town, safest area of the city, it's not worth it because I thought I was safe until I wasn't.